Today we're talking about how to climb as a mid laner, and if you want to climb faster, there's only one thing that really matters: leveling up your gameplay. There's no way around it. But here's the truth: you don't need flashy mechanics or perfect macro to climb. What you do need are 5 key fundamentals. If you can understand these 5 key fundamentals and why they work so well, you can quite literally master mid lane overnight. So in this video, I'm going to break down the only 5 fundamentals you need to know to climb on mid, no matter what champ you play. I'll show you examples, explain why each concept works, and basically hand you the blueprint of winning more games. By the way, I'm Mysterias, Challenger West. I've helped hundreds of players climb, and helping players improve is what I do every single day, all day. All right, let's get into it. Here are the 5 fundamentals that form the foundation of winning mid lane in League of Legends. So the first fundamental is the ability to acquire resources. And this ties back to the understanding of why do we actually lane? And a lot of people make massive mistakes in this department. So the reason why we lane is to just get strong for the mid game. Get as strong as possible. It's a resource war lane after all. And the goal of the lane is to get as much resources yourself while denying the enemies as much in return. And what I see with a lot of players in coaching sessions is that players actually overforce onto solo killing the enemy lane opponent, which leads to them losing 3 minions and actually becoming weaker than they otherwise would have gotten. So in this lane, I'm actually laning versus Vigar V2 right here. Of course, everyone knows him from the coach of C9. And what you'll see that I'm doing is I'm focusing on my minions first. I'm always making sure that I'm hitting my own creeps first. And whenever I can, that's when I'm going to punish him with some cooldowns, maybe a Q or a WQ. And that's all of the times when I do that when my minions are actually already dead. And then I try to harass him onto last hits, because that is the time where he's then going to be forced to make a decision. Am I going to get hit by the ability in the face, or am I going to lose last hits? And the reason why the ability to acquire resources is so incredibly important is because later down the line, right, the one that's stronger is going to get priority. And the one that's going to get priority is the one that's going to be dictating the tempo, allowing for proactive plays on the map. And that is the player that is eventually going to be in control of the game. So the ability to acquire resources is going to put you ahead of the curve, and that's going to allow you to impact the game, and it's going to allow you, whenever you have impact, to climb as a mid laner. The next fundamental is the lane priority to get the push. And I see a lot of players struggle exactly at this point here in the game because they don't understand the value of a push. So this is a game that I reviewed today with one of my coaching clients, Platinum LeBlanc player, and he didn't properly understand how to get that push and how important that push actually was, and it lost him a game. So we're going to be taking a look at LeBlanc versus Vex. Now, this in and of itself is not the easiest matchup, but we're so far ahead that it doesn't really matter. We're full sorcery shoes up. We're a little bit up when it comes to the Dark Seal as well. And what we see right now is that we get pushed in because we reset a little bit later than Vex. Not a problem at all. The problem here in this case is that we fail to get back the push, the priority, because we don't understand a really important concept about our champion, and which is the fact that we have long cooldowns. A really good example is Syndra E, Yasuo W, Yone E. These are big, long cooldown abilities that dictate your ability to get the control over the lane. And in this case, it's LeBlanc's W. 10-second cooldown, plus minus at this point. And it's our wave clearing tool. So what happens is he makes these huge mistakes where he W's this one minion. And that means that on the next wave, which is already colliding, he doesn't have his W up, which means that he's in no way, shape, or form are going to be able to get priority. Plus, he decides to trade with the Vex. Now, trading is fine as long as you get the wave out. The problem is Vex has shorter cooldowns than LeBlanc. So if we trade our cooldowns and we trade even, Vex is going to get her rotation back up, which is going to allow her to get priority on the wave. And this is a big problem because what happens currently on bot lane, there's a play going on from our jungle. What we should do instead is hard push the previous wave, complement our jungle, play bodyguard that Vex cannot impact the play right there. Because what's going to happen is that Vex is now roaming towards bot lane, killing the Jarvan and getting priority back on bot lane as well, while our team was completely dominating the enemy team, and there's no way that this should ever happen. Our job is to pin this Vex under the turret, preventing her from doing these type of moves. So that way we can take control over the game and basically have impact. That's the goal of it, of course. That's the power point of having priority. You can impact the side lanes, and that way you don't have to 1v9 yourself because you actually have teammates that you can build around. Now, we're going to fast forward a little bit, right? In the sense that we're once again eventually going to be in a position where Vex is going to get priority. And this sometimes happens because sometimes you reset later or you overstay a little bit of tempo. In this case, for Jarvan doing the dragon, that's totally fine. But there's going to be times where Vex is going to get priority or your enemy laner is going to get priority and you need to prevent them from being able to make that play. This is the only time they can get back into the game. So what he should do right here is heavy ping bot lane, get out of this wave state, prevent bot lane from making a play right now. All we need to do is ping on bot lane. It's the only play that the Vex has. And if we do that and we push out the next wave, Vex that needs to respond, we get priority, we can now make a play on our timer, on our turn, on our prio timer. And these prio timers are going to be a big deal, guys, because this is the ability for you to impact the map. In this case, Vex impacts bot. There's a 4 versus 3 while we are chilling on mid lane, and our entire lead of bot lane and jungle just evaporated in the span of 3 minutes. And I see this on a daily basis in my coaching sessions where players lose games or fail to impact the games because they don't see the value of priority. The next key fundamental is the ability to activate your brain. And this might sound simple, but for 99% of the league players, they struggle with that. And I understand because there's so much to do in game that it's easy to get overwhelmed or turn on to autopilot. So I'm gonna explain exactly how to prevent that and how I go about constantly staying active in game. And the way that I like to discuss that is through lull state usage. A lull state is a period in the game where nothing much happens. And what we can do in these periods is we can ask ourselves a specific set of questions that is going to allow us to think about the game. And it's going to give us structure and we know what to play around. And the difference between doing this and not doing this is going to allow us to win through games easily versus struggle, take flip fights and just coin flip the game. So one of the key things that I always like to do is ask myself the question, what's next? Constantly, 24/7. We're doing the Rift Hour right now after me killing Yone and giving the Rift for free. And I'm already thinking about the next play afterwards. And that's the question that's constantly going through my mind. What's next? What's next? What's next? What's the next objective? And you see that I'm pinging it in chat. And not only is that going to make it easier for me to know when I need to be where, it's also going to make it easier for my team to understand where they need to be. And you see in the chat, I'm dominating the chat. Look at this. My team knows exactly where I need them to be. And this is going to allow me to properly be there, ready at the objective. I'm constantly pinging so much to make everybody aware that that's the play that we're going to be playing for. I play the wave, I nuke it out, I move to the neutral objective, and my entire team is ready to fight. And the reason is we are stronger than the enemies, so we can fight this with ease and we can just snowball the game properly through neutral objectives. Zero risk, zero skill, perfect clean execution, and you won't be throwing out games. You'll easily be closing out games like this. So I'm now going to show you an example what happens if you don't activate your brain and you're not asking yourself these questions constantly. We get a little bit lost on the map, we're not efficient in our movement, and we just get in these really awkward positions where teammates die, where we then eventually die. It's just so awkward. Now, what's next in this case? In this case, we have Herald coming up in 4 minutes, we have Dragon coming up in 2 minutes. Can we fight the Dragon? Absolutely. You have a weak side top, we have a strong side bot. So we should always play around bot side and play for this next Dragon. So what we do is we do a really good job pinging it initially, right? So the start is actually very good for him. But he starts losing track over it the moment he comes into lane and he forgets to ping it again. So what he does is he keeps playing on mid. I'm going to speed the VOD up a little bit so you guys can just see it in real time. And what happens is that we start over laning and we forget about the Dragon, and then we get into a position where the game becomes really, really awkward. So what happens is that Fizz now gets a little bit of roam off a bot. Very nice, not too bad. Roam, he can't do much. We get a plate for him in return because of the fact that we have permanent prio. Dragon's now up in a minute. The team is restarting. It looks to be a great Dragon angle because we're still so far ahead on bot. Everything is looking perfect right now. Now what we do is we get up matched against the Lucian. We do a bit of trading. This is all completely fine. As long as we keep up the priority, the lane priority for the Dragon, that's fine. In this case, he nukes the wave with the W. It takes a little bit of a trade. We get a beautiful position because Lucian is now super tuned for the Dragon. All we need to do is just get this one more wave prio on mid, and then just instantly start the Drake. There's no reason to do anything else. So we get this mid prio right here, and then we can sit towards the edges, sit towards the side, and let Viego start the Dragon. Now what happens instead is that Viego is doing some invading, we're starting to trade with the Fizz, Viego eventually gets himself caught, and it just becomes so unbelievably awkward right here, because we could have literally just done the dragon with a pushing out mid, with a pushing out bot, and we would have had such an easy time at playing and consistently snowballing out the lead. But it looks like that we just forgot that dragon was spawning, and therefore the team wasn't ready, we weren't properly ready, we take a big chunk from Fizz, and now we're in this slightly awkward position. No problem, can happen. Now, next play is going to be on Rift Herald. What do we know about the next objective? Well, we always should identify when it happens, because we can then decide, are we going to play there, yes or no? In this case, it's a real easy answer, because of the fact that the Rift Herald is on the weak side of the map with the Udyr that's feeding his ass off. So what we're going to do is we're not going to play around the Rift Herald, we're going to dive bot right here. That would be my mindset. Let's dive bot, let's play bot, let's get shit done on bot lane. In this case, it's fine, of course, to play mid. Right here, Rift Herald's now spawning. Guess what happens, right? The boys start opening up on towards top side. We see Viego, we see Yana, everyone opening up towards top side, while our carry Misfortune is on bot side and the Rift Herald spawning. What happens is that in this particular position, we don't get perfect prio for the Rift, right? We should have already nuked this wave, talking about priority, what we talked about before. But most importantly, the next objective is the Rift Herald, but we can't fight it because we're not strong enough. Our carry, who's fed, is on bot side. So that means that we're gonna run into a trap and we're gonna get ourselves killed because we're simply not strong enough to fight. We die, we throw our lead, and in the meantime, we were slow on the neutral objectives. Lull states activating your brain, right? And using these lull states to identify what the next play is can also mean that we not fight for a play and we're gonna cross map instead. The next key fundamental is understanding how to actually sidelane as a mid laner. And almost no one understands what sidelane is all about, even though as a mid laner, we're forced to go to the side lane. So we better learn this fast, right? Now, side laning can be overwhelming, I understand. There's a lot of things you need to think about. But most importantly, we're gonna tie it back to the lull states that we just talked about. We need to know the timer of the game that we're playing on. We need to know what the next play timer is. And side laning is gonna dictate the way we navigate ourselves around that. I got two beautiful examples lined up to showcase the importance of knowing the timer. So the ideal goal of the side lane is that we have a pushing out wave state so that we force the enemies to respond, creating a temporary man advantage, allowing you to set up an objective or fight an objective on favorable terms. Okay, that's the idea of a side lane. And of course, that's also going to allow you to generate more resources. So what you'll see that I do here in this example is I'm heavily aware of what the next neutral objective is. This 1 minute 30 is my play timer. I'm playing on that. So what I need to do right now is I need to chill in the side lane for 1 more minute, get a pushing out wave state in 1 more minute. And afterwards, I'm going to be in a position where I can play the neutral objective. So what I'm not doing is I'm not hard pushing the wave right now. Because if I hard push the wave right now, the wave's going to crash at 45. Not really 45, yeah, 45 seconds before the dragon spawns. And then Yone can just catch it for free, and I need to catch the next wave awkwardly deep. It's just not super pretty. So instead, what I do is I know, okay, the dragon spawns in 1 minute and 3 seconds. So I need to play 1 more wave, okay, which stalls 30 seconds. So 30 seconds, then I have a pushing out wave state 30 seconds before the neutral objective. I can then reset, open it mid, and be right there when the neutral objective spawns. Sometimes you want to be a little bit earlier. In that case, you can use your teleport to be early on the play and get a positional advantage. So what I do is I'm intentionally thinking, okay, 103, 103, 103. Don't push the wave, right? So I'm slow pushing. I'm getting the creeps, making sure the wave slowly pushes into the enemies. I stay safe because it's close towards my side of the map. And you see that the next wave, I can catch it a little bit deeper. I know where the echo is. So this is a really free wave for me to get. And you see that this wave is just easily nuked. I wait for the minions to group up right here. I get the creeps. Yone does a bit of trading. Doesn't matter. I'm going to reset anyway, right? Completely irrelevant here. So what I'm going to do is now nicely reset. And the timing of my push out lines up perfectly with the neutral objective. So I take myself the reset. I open up to mid. And I say push, push, push mid. It's very important that you get the mid prio on the final wave before the neutral objective, because of the fact that that's going to generate you positional advantages, positional control of the play. Now, if Yone would stay top right here and push out that wave, what I can do is I can literally just start the dragon, have mid push, then go up into top to defend. That's fine. Or I could just brute force through mid, maybe dive then while he's on the side lane. We got enough options because we had the side lane wave pushed out at the right time. Now, this is going to allow us to get the dragon for free. I recognize because of our positional advantage, because of my perfect movement on the map, I recognize we don't have to do anything more anymore here. I just sit on the edges like FX would, a bit of like a shark. Now the enemies aren't overcommitting, they're giving the dragon. Great, I can go back to top lane and catch myself these nice few minions and a nice little free kill onto the Yone. Now in this next example, I'm going to be playing versus Veigar V2 again. And he actually does a really good macro play in which that he wins the game for his team for it. And I'm going to explain what he did and what I could do to counter it. So in this case, our Jarvan contests a Rift Herald that we can't contest because we had no prio, so he dies. That's a big problem. The next play is going to be the dragon in 130, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to get a pushing out wave state in 130 and get prio for the dragon. So I'm going to be side laning here versus the Veigar for a minute time. And I'm going to try to get priority to then force him to respond to the wave, allow myself to be early on mid wave, get priority on mid wave, and then potentially get ourselves the dragon for free, which is the third dragon for us, by the way. This is a game-changing dragon, the next one that's coming up. It's a game-changing dragon. This is where the game decides. So you see, I'm taking up the wave deep. I'm trying to get the priority here, and I do successfully in this case. So I get a very nice wave of priority. Veigar stays here on top side. I hit him with my E. He hits me with his E. Doesn't really matter. I get the creeps. And now there's one more wave that we can potentially push. The most important wave to get prio on is the final mid lane wave before the neutral objective. The neutral objective spawns in 30. So the next mid lane wave is what's important. And at this point in the game, the waves are desynced. Mid lane is now going to collide first. And then a few seconds later, top lane is only going to collide. So that means that I can push out the next top lane wave, then reset, and then go TP or mid, or just push out top lane wave, insta move mid, and then still be on time for the next mid lane wave. Now there's a problem here. What he does really well is that he pushes up deep. He starts moving up deep and contests my wave deep. The exact same thing I did on the previous wave. I'm scared as shit. Why am I scared? Because I don't know where Ambessa is. And I think he's got Mercs as well, so I don't really know if I can beat him in the 1v1. That's kind of what his champ does. So I fuck up my E here, and because I mess up my E, he gets full priority, full control over this next wave state. And because he gets full priority in the next wave state, what he's going to do is he's going to TP after pushing out the wave state. He resets, TPs to mid, and he's just in time when the next mid lane wave collides. And remember, this mid lane wave was super important to get priority on, because when they get priority on this mid lane wave, they're forced to smolder flash. We now lose the positional advantage. We lose smolder HP. We lose redemption. I go too deep because they have positional advantage. I try to take it back. And what happens is we die and we lose the game. And funnily enough, this is 100% on me. So this is what side lane is all about, right? Being at the right place at the right time. Now let's go back. How could I fix this? Okay, number one, either I beat him in the 1v1, and I actually contest prio harder, which is going to allow me to push him in before the Drake. And it's going to allow me to make that TP play on mid first before him, granting me priority, granting me control. So I do exactly what he does, but then I do it, you know? That's one way to go about it. Now, if that is the ideal situation, the way I should go about it is I should walk into the bushes, then I should trap him in the bushes. If he decides to walk up, I can get a big ass combo onto his face. And that could work. Absolutely can work. That is if I feel like I can beat him, right? And if I feel like Ambessa's not in the area. She might be hiding in the fog, potentially looking for ult. Can happen. If I do not feel like I can get the priority, what I should do is sacrifice the wave, right? Move further back, reset earlier. Instead of contesting this wave, sit in the bush or sit even further, right? Reset already and then TP mid to contest the next mid prio, or walk mid is also fine as long as I'm early on the mid lane wave. And I just have to sacrifice that extra wave, that extra bit of money, and I just have to take the L and still play for this dragon, because this dragon's what it's all about. So I need to understand my timers, and I misread my timer right here, leading him to be in a position of control, leading him to take the game-winning play. Well played to him. The fifth and final key fundamental you need to have and understand to climb on mid lane is your ability to pilot your champion well in skirmishes. This is why we always advocate for a small champion pool, because we're going to build champion mastery, and sometimes even if you take suboptimal fights, you can fight your way because you just land your spells, or you know your champion better, you know what to look for, you know what your champion does. And this is the difference sometimes between winning or losing games. And this is a perfect example that I have. This was a Syndra game that I played, and I definitely don't play this perfectly. Right, the situation of the Rift Herald is really awkward. As Syndra, you usually like to be first, let the enemies run towards you. But what happens here is I land 2 really good stuns onto the Karma, allowing me to one-shot the Karma. I get myself in a good spot where I land the rest of my spells. Beautiful W onto the Olaf. I get a big QE onto the Olaf right here, allowing us to clean up, deal more damage towards the enemies. And in the meantime, I'm basically landing most of my spells. Finally, right here, perfect interaction between my QE. I've landed every single QE so far. Nice little W at the back end, still hitting the Gragas. This is pure raw champion mastery. The only way I win this skirmish is because I'm so fucking good on Syndra that I can land my spells properly, which otherwise wouldn't work. And you see right here, I'm landing all my spells, allowing me to be in a position where I can navigate myself through this awkward position. And if you're just first-time champions in ranked, you won't be able to do that. It's all about the ability to play the skirmishes out properly on your champion, getting yourself to this point where you can win these fights around these key neutral objectives, which is going to allow you to eventually win and snowball the game. You need to get strong for that. You need to get priority for that. You need to know what the next neutral objective is. And you need to play a champion that you can play and that you can pilot well so you can execute. And if you do all of these things correctly, I can guarantee you your climb on mid is going to go way faster, way smoother, and you're going to feel like you're in way more control throughout the games.